Howdy all, this is Shane. Welcome to the In the Blues Tone podcast, episode 4. Today I'll be covering a bunch of different topics, some product related and some guitar technique or lesson related as well. As you may or may not know, I do loads and loads of gear demos on YouTube, and I also get a chance to test a lot of products here at home. Where I live right now, it's not always advisable to be cranking up an amp at any time of the day loudly, so I time my recordings well, and I usually film during the day with my amp at a low volume. I've tried a couple of different solutions for recording, whether it be attenuators or silent recording cabinets or isolation boxes like I've got now. And I recently just purchased the Randall isolation cabinet. And this is basically a box with a speaker and an SM57 inside it. So basically you bypass your speaker on your amplifier and you basically use the Celestion Vintage 30 that's in the box, and as you close the lid it really cuts the noise down. I just felt like their website and also the blurb about this product and some of the videos on YouTube are a little misleading about what you can actually expect. So here to basically tell you what I think of it and also compare it to the Axe Track, which is a similar idea, only with a smaller box and a smaller speaker and smaller microphone built into a cabinet. So if you've used an Axe Track before, you might find, or some people might find, and I actually found that it does change your tone a little too much. It's a little boxy sounding because it is a really small box, but it's got this weird low mids hump that you can't get rid of unless you start EQing a lot. And I don't know, I just couldn't really get the sound that I wanted from it. So I basically ditched that and I went over and grabbed the Randall isolation cabinet. I found it on eBay actually nice and cheap from a really cool guy in Sydney who packed it beautifully, and I got it and it's basically brand new. So this 12-inch speaker that sits in the box, it absolutely cuts the noise down. If you've got your amp on say 3 or 4, and most amps at that sort of wattage, like it's a 22 watt amp, would be pretty loud. It'd be too loud to just, jam out at home, at least where I live. So I decided that the isolation cabinet would be the best way for me to record. The pros of this thing are absolutely great. It records exceptionally well. The microphone's always in the same spot, so once you get it angled on a spot that you really like, it's there as long as you like. It comes with a Vintage 30, like I mentioned, a Celestion Vintage 30, and it's a good speaker and it sounds really cool with my deluxe reverb. It actually doesn't look too bad. I've got it in the corner of my room, so aesthetically it's not so bad. It's covered in black carpet, and as you close the lid or when you open it, I can't really hear a difference between that. So on the actual recording, I mean, you can hear a huge difference on the volume drop. So this is where I think a lot of people might be misled when it comes to the isolation cabinet, and I'm going to show you what I did. I also modded it slightly as well. So basically what it won't do is give you the holy grail of noise cancellation. It basically reduces the volume of your amp tremendously. It does that extremely well, but because it's a wooden box, it will actually vibrate a lot. So you're sort of substituting a really loud noise for a very different noise, and it was a little off-putting. I had it behind me in a couple of the early videos that I did, and I was hearing the sound of the guitar through the monitors, but acoustically the box was still pretty loud in a different way. It's sort of, you can feel it vibrating and rattling. So luckily enough, I had some acoustic foam, the sort of triangle shaped wedge kind of things. I don't know what that you call them. They're about 1 foot by 1 foot, and you put them on the walls normally. I had a whole bunch of those, and I had some 3-inch foam. So I took the speaker out and I laid down a really thick slice of the foam at the bottom of the cabinet and some against the walls. I didn't glue it in or anything. It just fit. Luckily, I didn't have to do anything really except for just cut a few sections, but I put it up against each side of the wall underneath the speaker because it was just completely empty. And that actually made a huge difference to the sound. And I also noticed that there's no real join around the lid. So you've basically, as you close the lid down on top of this thing, the seal or lack of seal is just carpet touching carpet. So I thought, maybe I'll just pack the roof of the lid full of, I had a 2-3 inch foam as well. So I literally just pushed a whole bunch of extra foam into the lid, and that cut down the noise as well. So here we go. If you're in a situation where you have to be very quiet and you want to turn your amp onto 5 or 6 or beyond or 10, then the Randall isolation cabinet isn't for you. I find it works best with my amps around 2 to 4 on the volume at a 22 watt amp power rating. So around there you'll get very dramatic reduction in noise and very little trade-off in tone. I think it actually records extremely well. I don't hear any boxiness. I don't hear anything like that at all. So you can expect some really great tight sounding recordings that's from your amp. So that's a great thing to have. If you want to run your amp really hot and get that valve distortion and you don't want to wake the neighbors, then it's definitely not the choice for you. You'd be better off going for the Axe Track and substituting the acoustic volume of the box, which is next to 0 on the Axe Track, for maybe not as nice a tone. So that's one thing to take into account. If you want to have a dead silent recording and you want to use an isolation cabinet, I haven't used the Rivera ones either, but they're even bigger and more expensive. So for me, I've had the Axe Track for years, and I've had the Randall isolation cabinet now maybe 3 weeks, and I've got to say that the Randall kills it for tone. I don't have to re-EQ anything. It just sounds fantastic. But the acoustic noise coming from the box, is still quite loud, but it's a different kind of loud. You can feel it vibrating and rattling, but you don't get any of that on your recordings. I should point that out. I didn't hear any of that. It's got these like metal hinges on the back and metal sort of handles as well that do rattle on certain frequencies. So don't think it's like the be all and end all for quiet home recording, because it's not. If you do have your amplifier on a clean channel around 2 or 3 on the volume, or even a drive channel or whatever, it's going to be fine. And then also if you crank on overdrive pedal, you'll notice the overall volume of the box gets louder. It still cuts 75%, but it doesn't cut as much as you might think. So keep that into account if you're looking at getting an isolation cabinet. I've got to say, I'm a huge fan of the Randall now that I've had a chance to use it for a while. It took me a couple of days to feel comfortable recording and sort of working out where to put it in the room so it doesn't affect me acoustically when I'm playing guitar with monitors facing me, but also what volumes and how to make the most out of it. I did have to re-EQ my amp a little by taking a little bit of the low end out, but I also found that once I packed it full of foam under the speaker, it greatly improved the sound, and I also left the bass port completely free of foam, so I didn't touch that. But I just packed the walls up, packed the floor up, packed the roof up with a little extra foam. Done. I think it sounds great. If you have any questions about that, just let me know.